I'll just need that's perfect, just a little space. Thank you. Thank you. All right, welcome. I'm Mayor John Curtis, and we appreciate your interest in this matter. And I'd like to read a brief statement to you and then answer questions that you may have. Is everybody set technically? Are we ready to go? Good, thank you. On February 8th, I received a complaint of sexual misconduct regarding Chief King. As you understand and can imagine, it's not the policy of Provo City to investigate ourselves. So I immediately contacted the Utah County Attorney's Office. And when I use the word I should probably say we. We immediately contacted the Utah County's Attorney's Office and requested an outside investigation. At the time, for family reasons, Chief John King was on administrative leave and back east with his family. Utah County also felt that they had a conflict of interest and referred that investigation to the Unified Police Department in Salt Lake County. Salt Lake County accepted the request to conduct an investigation, and it is my understanding that Chief King cooperated with that investigation. On March 1st, I received a copy of a letter, and we have a copy of that letter for all of you that would like that. The letter was from the office of Sim Gill to the Utah County Attorney's Office and stated that they would not be proceeding with prosecution of Chief King. The letter also said that the matter had been thoroughly investigated, and after receiving this letter, Chief King was taken off administrative leave. On Friday, March 10th, I received additional information from Salt Lake County regarding their investigation. After reviewing that information, on Monday of this week, March 13th, I met with Chief King, and we mutually agreed that his resignation was in the best interest of the city and the department. For obvious reasons, I think it's important for me not to discuss any information about the woman who made the accusation, but I would like to confirm that she was not a Provo City employee and not a minor. And with that, I would be happy to entertain any of your questions.
Well, I come out with on Monday, Tuesday, and say that he was put in the family and left.
Yeah.
I
I think that's a legitimate question. First of all, let me confirm that Chief King has been for a period of time dealing with some pretty significant family issues, some serious health issues with his family, and also some not light issues of health himself. And I think that's important because I don't want anybody to feel like those facts were made up. I also need to explain in something that's very difficult to explain or understand, the difficult balance that was mine from the moment this information was brought to me. On the one hand, we'd had accusations, and I felt a very strong desire and need to protect a potential victim. On the other hand, we had a career and a reputation at stake. And so throughout this process, we were trying to navigate this, protecting both of those interests. We had a thorough investigation, and no charges were filed. It was my feeling that in balancing those two needs, it was appropriate for the chief to resign for a legitimate reason.
Why not just say that right away? I know you're trying to balance his reputation versus his accusation, but you feel it's disingenuous to not come out right away and say, we have to resign?
Let me clarify this comment about asking him to resign. I don't think it's as simple as one moment when I looked him in the eye and said, you must resign. You have to understand the totality of the situation. The totality of the situation has the aspect of the family and the legitimate problems that he has. He and I and many people share this same burden of an extremely high bar that qualifies us and allows us to serve. irregardless of how valid the charges were, he has been tainted and damaged. And it was my feeling that it would be impossible for him to go forward leading the department with that hanging out there in the community. And yet, I have no policies broken within the city, no law broken. And so at the same time, I feel like it's perhaps unfair of me to further taint him with this label when he's been cleared of those charges. Let me reframe that. I don't think it's fair to say he's been cleared of those charges, but when they've been investigated and there's not enough evidence to move forward.
And so this additional information you received on the 10th, was that not included in the original investigation?
Yeah. So the letter that came out on March 1st, which here again we'll share with all of you, is pretty cut and dry with no commentary. I was provided additional information that was part of the investigative detail that was enough information to show me the great complexities of this case. And those complexities are things that are in tons of areas that are not illegal, and here again, no policies were broken, but were complicated enough, along with the allegations, that I felt extremely difficult for him to move forward with chief of this department.
And so when he announced to his department first that he was stepping down, what did he know about the allegations?
Chief King had selectively told a very small, maybe as few as one, I'm not sure myself, within the department of those allegations. And I don't know myself beyond that, but I do know of at least one that he shared that information with.
Chief, the original allegations from this woman in February, she's not a minor, she's not an employee. When did this alleged behavior occur, and how did they come in contact?
So because of the nature of our inability to investigate ourselves, I know almost no information about the investigation itself or a lot of the facts that you would like to know. And I'm going to have to refer you, just because I don't know so much of that, to Salt Lake County, who conducted that investigation.
So their statement to you that we're going to get essentially says no charges, peace out, that's it.
Let me, it might be helpful for me to just, it's a brief letter, and if it's helpful to you, I'll just read that, and then you'll, here again, we can give you all a hard copy of it. It's direct to Jeff Buman, the Utah County Attorney's Office. We've completed our review of the investigation conducted by Unified Police Department on the above referenced matter that you requested our office to engage due to possible conflicts of interest within your office. Based upon the information provided to our office for screening, we have determined that we are unable to proceed with the prosecution of Jay King. The information presented was insufficient to support the filing of any charges. From our review of the case, the matter was thoroughly investigated and no remaining factual issues remain that would materially influence the decision we have reached in this case. If you have other questions or concerns regarding this matter, please feel free to contact me. This letter is signed by Blake Nakamura, Chief Deputy District Attorney.
Can you share all the follow-up information?
I can't.
Does the personnel matter?
Yes, that information was shared with me in confidence, and it's not mine to share. I do not and have not reviewed the totality of information that was compiled in the case, just enough for me to understand that there were deep complexities with this issue. Let me just say the very fact that the charges were made, excuse me, not the charges, the accusations, sure. The accusations were made, make it very, very difficult for a person in that position. These things could go on years, right, before they're resolved. And I think all of us in public service or in a high-profile position deal with this reality that these things come along that can greatly undermine our ability to function in the roles that demand 100% public trust.
Can you say that former GP acted inappropriately?
I don't know how to answer that, and let me tell you why. I think personally, if these accusations were leveled at me, and I had even met with somebody in my office with the door closed, I would say that was inappropriate on my behalf, because I'm a public figure, and I can't afford to get myself in any position that can be viewed as inappropriate or problematic. And it's just, unfortunately, a very, very high bar that all of us find ourselves in. I worry about it every time I share a car ride with somebody. I worry about it when I'm having dinner with somebody. And we all have this bar, and I think the point at which it becomes inappropriate is just very, very fuzzy. And to me, personally, I would tell you that I personally had been inappropriate if I allowed even the accusation to have a place to grow, or had put myself in a position where somebody could make the accusation and I didn't have somebody else there, somebody else with me. And so I'm not sure how to answer that question.
Do you know if King was involved in an extramarital relationship with this woman?
I don't, I'm not sure fully your question. Does that mean he was spending time with her? Does that mean all these other things? And then I'm not prepared to answer or willing to answer it beyond that.
Was this a singular incident?
Yeah, so here again, let me tell you, some of this is not just my unwillingness to answer these things, but I never asked Chief some of these questions that you're asking me, and I was not part of the investigation.
What, if anything, did the chief say in his own defense to you when you had that conversation?
As you can all imagine, the chief is crushed. Any of us that had these accusations leveled at us would be devastated. Here again, let me come back and say, I feel a need to balance here. There is another person in this who I also worry about, and don't have enough information to speak for her or on her behalf either. But you can imagine that the chief was personally devastated. I had the very, very unfortunate task of calling him over the phone and telling him that I received the phone call about the charges, and that's how he learned about it, was a phone call when he was at a family event back east. And I think it's fair to say that the whole process has been extremely difficult on him. And I know that he deeply regrets the shadow that this cast, and he has expressed that to me and to others in the city, that irregardless of how this comes out, there's a terrible shadow that's cast by this situation.
Curtis, you used the phrase, "there's a terrible shadow that was cast." Is it because of these allegations, or that there is a shadow of an allegation, or is there anything of substance that made the city administration feel that he could not?
So my reference was to the moment that an accusation like this is made, it casts a terrible shadow. And I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that was my reference.
My question is there anything, is it just the fact that there was an allegation, or was there anything substantive in the allegation that even though there weren't charges, the city administration still felt like?
Let me reiterate. I know of not a single policy, right, that was broken. It appears that the law was not broken. He, in my opinion, lost his ability to govern this department with the confidence of this city. And I still know a fraction of what was investigated and don't have those, that information. So don't know that I can answer it beyond that. Sam, I'll come here, but let me go to Sam first.
Can you just clarify then, these allegations that came through, were they fabricated, were they completely false, or was there just enough truth in it that caused you enough alarm that you felt like that?
I honestly don't know the answer to that because I don't think anybody could know the answer to that unless they spent the hours that were spent in the investigation. My experience with human nature is that there's always elements of bits and pieces. I just don't know how significant or material those are.
It just concerns us if these allegations are being made and it turns out completely false, then,
So this was my burden.
over and
Yeah, this was.
here today talking about.
This was my burden, to not take them lightly, to understand that there could be a potentially very hurt victim, and then balance that with a career and a reputation. And I don't have the information. I don't even have the background, if I had the information, to weed through that and know. And that's why, to me, there's a great deal of relief in the process of handing this to somebody not connected, somebody who does this for a living, somebody who has seen these things before, knows what questions to ask, knows what collaborating evidence to look for. And handing that pile to them, to me, I'm very, very grateful that Salt Lake County was willing to take this on. And I might just mention a great deal of respect for Sheriff Winder and his communication with me on this and the way that they have approached this. Very, very difficult situation. Let me come here and then I'll come, yeah.
About these questions, and you're saying you don't know a whole lot about the situation, yet the city's lost their confidence in the chief, and yet there's not enough information to file criminal charges. What, are you worried about a blackmail situation?
No.
What is it that
Remember,
you lose confidence in the chief if you don't understand
so
the situation?
let me clarify, I think, what I said, which is I lost confidence in his ability to lead the department based on being so undermined by this, combined with the totality of his personal situation, of these very, very difficult personal issues that he's dealing with. It was the totality of that led both he and I to say, you need to go back east. I think that's goes without saying, right? I mean, he was back east with family when he found out all about all of this. I'm trying to be careful because of his personal situation, not to be too explicit on these personal situations. But I can tell you that some of the health issues that family are dealing with are life-threatening health issues, combined with some of his own issues, which are certainly not life-threatening, but debilitating. That totality of that situation said to me, I mean, you wake up, and if your head's not in the game of chiefs of police every day, it's unfortunate that all this attention has almost overshadowed the homicide that we had the night before last in the city and the investigation that was followed. And I need somebody, when something like that happens in my city, to be 100% head in the game, and then they've got to stand before the public, and I can't have the public questioning them. I can't have their credibility questionable. And that's, to me, the totality of the situation, the difficulty of the situation. And I think, as unfair as that may sound, that those of us who accept that public role, that public limelight, that's part of our package, that's part of our deal. That public trust is so fragile, and if that's lost, it becomes very, very difficult to govern. I'm sorry, we'll come here, but Sam?
What now? You appointed
Yes.
chief, and what's the next
Great, thank you. Good question, and I will come back right here. We have 4 captains who I think the world of. We have 4 captains who I also have to reconcile with the fact that they didn't know about this. So we've got some morale issues within the department. We've got the weightiness, the shadow that I talked about that will become paramount for me as soon as I can satisfy your questions and move to that next phase. Within those 4 captains, I've started interviewing, and I have 3 more to do, to pick an interim chief. And the interim chief will come from that group of 4 captains who any one of them could run this department. And I need the chance today to interview them. There is a department meeting on Monday, and I will be announcing the interim chief at that department meeting on Monday. The last time we went through a selection process for chief, it took me 6 months. And the reason it took me 6 months is my desire to get the right person. So we have in the past used an outside firm. We've cast a net that went across the nation looking for candidates. We've refined those candidates. We've brought them in. We've used a citizens panel and others and other chiefs to interview them, and then I've made the final selection. And that's taken about 6 months. And I understand, due to the nature of this, I don't have 6 months. And so I've asked Human Resources to take that exact same process, not leaving any steps out, and compress it down to about 3 months. So it's my intent to do a thorough search for the right person. We have some great internal candidates, but I'm also interested in looking outside and using that same process of a citizen committee. One of the things that Chief King did while he was here that has been very, very positive is to have a citizens committee put together. I met with them last night. They would like a very active role in the selection, and I think they're right. And I need to find a way to actually add in one more step to the process than I've had before, because we haven't had that committee in the past.
So then, Curtis, what's your message into the ranking file?
Yeah.
Right now, we're seeing this ambiguity out in our past chief meetings wrong.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think I have a difficult task reinstilling my trust in them, reinstilling trust in the department, and I think, like I say, as soon as I can satisfy this large media need to know more information, that's where I'll turn my attention. Picking an interim chief will be very important, working very closely with the department. I think this is a good place and a good opportunity to express my deep, deep respect for every member of the Provo City Police Department, not just the officers, but every member of this department. These are amazing people. I mentioned this homicide, and the work that's been done on that and the conclusion that's quickly coming together on that is terrific. The way they treat our public, the way they interact with our public, I am so proud of everything they do. And unfortunately, they will all feel this shadow for a time. I told the Citizens Committee last night, and I strongly believe this, that we will come out the other side of this better than the way we went into it. That this little bit of a trial by fire will ultimately be good for us, and we will bond together and be a better agency. But doesn't mean that we don't have a little dark moment that we have to go through to get to that other side. Yes.
Given the fact that the chief resigned abruptly and essentially fibbed about why he was leaving, kind of left you in the lurch. Do you feel that any differently?
I don't view it that way. Let me come back to this concept of everything he said was not a fib. It was the truth. He had not broken any policies. He had not broken a law. Yes, he had this cloud over him, but he too had a difficult decision to make, to say, look, as much as I know that you would like to know this information, and I know as bad as you will feel if you eventually hear this information, simply me telling you ruins my future career, my future, all of these things. And he had that same difficult balance that I had of when do you share information that is extremely damning. And now this had been a whole different press conference. This would be a very different situation if those charges had been filed by Salt Lake County. If Salt Lake County, and as you all well know, charges can be filed without him being guilty, right? And that's something that he looked at as a real possibility, but they weren't. And all of us are left with this question of lots of questions about, where Salt Lake was in this and what they had and how close were they and what were the circumstances. And I'm personally grateful that I'm not in that role of judge and jury on this situation. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I do view him as a deep friend, and that's a difficult position to be put in. And thank goodness he didn't put me in that position. Thank you. I don't want to rush you if there are more questions, but if there are not, I'll go turn my attention to the police department. Thank you very much. The copies that we alluded to this letter are right up here on the desk.